All right. So this next article here is from screenrant.com because John's got to leave soon.
Hey.
So I want to jump on his mind and see what's going on in there. Uh,
Oh, this, yeah.
Oh, I
10
really enjoyed
things,
this.
I'm
Thanks,
glad.
John.
Thank you.
10
Yeah.
things I loved about Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. Here are 10 things I loved about Star Trek Strange New World Season 3, recently completed on Paramount Plus. Star Trek Strange New World Season 3 proved to be divisive among Star Trek fans, and it was less warmly received than the previous two seasons. First of all, can we just talk about that? John, why do you think it was less warmly received than the
Oh,
first
it's
two
not my
seasons?
opinion. I mean,
I know, but
it's,
I'm saying, why do you think that's the
it bears
case?
out. For instance, the Rotten Tomatoes audience score, it's I think at like 55%, which was much lower than seasons one and two, which were like in the 70s or 80s,
Right. But what do you think
or possibly higher.
caused fans to like it less?
Well, I'm glad you asked because I did write an article about
Thanks.
this last week. Yeah, so I mean, which I believe was titled Seven Reasons Why, something like Seven Reasons Why
Yeah.
Stranger New World Season 3 angered Star Trek fans. But it
Oh
boiled
yeah.
down to, I think it boiled down to some issues like the 2 year wait, and then what the episodes ultimately were about didn't jive with a lot of the audience who were hoping for something else from Strange New Worlds, something more Star Trek. I know Four and a Half Vulcans was so controversial. A lot of people did not like it, and they have very specific reasons why they didn't like it. I think the amount of comedy was also a problem, or just the dancing apparently was also an issue.
So
But there were
weird.
yeah, there were just a number of things that added up. It wasn't one specific thing, but the season was just not as beloved as seasons one and two. Um, so I wrote this just because, like, I loved season three. I genuinely did. Did every episode work 100% for me? No, there were things, of course, you know, I like more than
Of
others.
course.
But at the same time, I enjoyed every episode. I found things to love in every episode. I love this cast. I love watching them perform. Everybody obviously had a good time making this, and you could see it in every episode, especially the comedy ones, the controversial comedy ones. So I was thinking about season three, and I also realized, like, nobody's talking about what they actually loved about season three. So I
Yeah,
thought
what's
I'd
up with
do one.
that? Well,
Yeah,
before we
so
get into
so
this
I
article
thought I'd do
then,
one.
John, what was your favorite episode of season 3?
Um, Valerie Weiss's episode number six, 306, the satellite who ate its tail, just because it was the Kirk coming out party, and everybody was in it. The entire cast was in it. Everybody had something really cool to do. But it was also like, I'm a big Paul Wesley fan. I love the guy. Gotten to meet him a few times. He's fantastic. I love his Kirk, and I felt this was the one where he really finally put all the pieces together, and he emerged as the Kirk that I can see him becoming eventually William Shatner. Like, I thought he really kind of, from his prior appearances and his alternate universe versions of Kirk, he really kind of coalesced it all, and we got to see him really kind of taking that big leap towards becoming the Captain Kirk that we know. And then Spock was right there also with forming that bromance, which we saw a lot more of with the mind meld in the finale. Spoilers, been out for 2 weeks, but so that was my favorite episode.
All right.
Yeah.
So here we go. Let's jump into this thing. I'm just going to read off these 10 things
Oh,
individually,
okay.
and you give us your thoughts on it if that's okay. So the first one is Rhys Darby was brilliant as Trelane in Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 3. Oh,
Wasn't he?
spoilers,
Wasn't he
everybody.
just great? Wasn't he just fantastic? Like, what a great comedic performance! Like, he totally tapped into William Campbell in The Squire of Gothos, but he also kind of made it his own a little bit. And just like, I thought he was fantastic. Like, what more could you possibly want from him? He was great. I
That
don't know how
was
you bring him back. I wish there was a way to bring him back. I don't know if they should, but I'd love to see more of that.
that was an early on episode, like 2, 3, or 4. I
Yeah, that
thought
was
that was
episode
the
Two.
two.
most two. I thought that was the most rewatchable episode of the season, personally.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's so much fun. And
Next one.
I loved I I loved Wham playing "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" at the end when the big dance thing. I loved
Yes.
it. I loved it.
I love that song.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
good knowledge. The next one is Jess Bush got to speak with her native Australian accent in Star Trek
Yes.
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds season three.
Yeah, I think all of us have met Jess in real life, and I've gotten to interview her a few times, and she's fantastic. But yeah, she plays American. She plays Chapel as American. Um, I think Chapel was born in Vermont. I think that's canon. So,
Mm.
Chrissy Chong obviously plays La'an with her native British accent. Um, so it was really cool to hear Jess actually just get to sound like herself for once on the
Hmm.
Yeah,
show.
and it's interesting that Ethan Peck is actually very thick accented Austrian, but he does a pretty good American accent,
Right.
right? So
He sounds very
that's
German in real life.
yeah, and Paul
What?
Paul Wesley is extremely Alaskan.
Hungarian. Yeah.
So, what do Alaskans
It's like
sound
two Cold
like?
War spies talking in real life when those two get together.
Uh, next,
These are all lies. People, these are all lies. These are all lies.
you
So,
would love this. We found out about number one's romantic past with Doug.
Doug.
yeah. Well, I thought this was a fun curveball. I thought, just
So
Rebecca
cute.
Romaine playing really goofy was fun. Number one has existed since the very, very beginning of Star Trek. She was one of the OG characters. And so for
Mm.
59 years, we didn't know anything about her. Like, who was she? Did she ever have a relationship? Did she ever love anybody? Did she ever, like we found out she was Illyrian. We
Right.
found out a little bit about her past, but like, it's awesome to find out like why, like she had a relationship with Patton Oswalt, and like who could see that coming? And then also
Doug.
Doug, and it explains a lot about like because she was supposed to be Spock in the very beginning, right? Like her character was the logical one. Her character was the serious one. And then when Star Trek was recast with William Shatner and the whole thing for the second pilot, the
Right.
the qualities of number one were transferred to Spock, and then that's how they created the whole Vulcan race and the whole Vulcan mythology. So it's a kind of a neat callback to that in a way, like a very very subtle callback to what number one was originally supposed to be when she was first created 60 years ago, 59 years ago. So I thought that's like a neat little thing. Like yeah, of course you'd be into a Vulcan, and this Vulcan
Right.
of all Vulcans. So that's fun. That's fun.
The most unVulcan Vulcan.
She's
Right.
like Una's Captain Baudet, right?
Oh, Captain
Right.
Baudet.
Oh, we still need to see that dude and his transparent skull.
Yeah. But we did see them in lower decks, right? Like we saw
Right.
what the race looked like.
hmm
Yeah.
The what are they called again? Galamite.
Gallimites.
Yeah.
The
Galamites,
Gallimites,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, up next is what is Starfleet? Had Star Trek Strange New World's most innovative visuals and editing. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I'm a film guy. I love filmmaking. And what is Starfleet? Like the documentary style that they employed for it, with the editing and the camera angles and the cuts to make it feel like a single camera run and gun documentary that was shot by Beto Ortega's first person, I thought was really, really cool. Like I know the episode didn't work for a lot of people substantially. Like I think Sean Farrick and I had a chat about that in Trek Culture where the episode didn't work for him. But visually, it's great. The editing is fantastic. Like it looks like no other Star Trek episode. And in terms of like what it was supposed to be, which is a documentary, like I thought it delivered.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was certainly something we'd never seen before, which was great. But here's something very interesting. The next one is, in your own words, Christina Chong and Ethan Peck have incredible chemistry in Star Trek Strange
I
New Worlds
agree.
season three. I
I mean,
agree too.
Agreed.
pretty
Yeah.
I
self-explanatory.
agree.
Yeah, like it was such a, I mean, I think we all felt the same when it first started in Wedding Bell Blues, like
Yep.
when they started dancing and we started thinking, wait, are these two gonna what? What is this? Well, like all, because like we were thinking Kirk. We were thinking La'an and Kirk. That was built up all throughout season two.
Right.
and then like, what's happening here? But then like you watch them together and you watch them dancing, and then you start like I started thinking about like the two characters. Why would these two characters be attracted to each other? And like they're so similar. They're both
Mm,
harboring trauma. They both keep it hidden, and they both but they're both super efficient or no nonsense. And, like they don't let people in easily. Like they have a lot in
hmm.
common. And then when you realize what the dancing was really about, when you track the arc throughout the three episodes when they're dancing, episode 2, episode 5, and episode 4.5 Vulcans, episode 8, which is a fight scene. When you realize that that dancing is their intimate language. It's how they communicate with each other.
Exactly.
It's their truest. It's the two of them only communicating their truest selves to each other. And so when
Like
Laan was
you
a
and me when
Vulcan,
we
and
talk wrestling.
right. Yeah, like the intimacy,
Yeah.
the mind
Our true
between us when we
selves.
talk wrestling, our true selves, our souls connecting. So that's essentially what the fight scene was in 4.5 Vulcans when she was still kind of Khan. She was Khan-like, and then they fought and then they
Yeah.
danced. That's how he broke through and tapped into who she really was, and that's why she
Hmm.
came out of it and decided to become herself again and rejected her volcanity or her conicity. I don't know,
Her
but
volcanism?
that's
No, that's something
her
Well,
else.
volcanism.
yeah, I mean, because they had said that none of them had learned how to tap into their katra, so of course they're going to go off the deep end as being Vulcans because they hadn't learned to hone those skills. So, Spock breaking down those walls with La'an was a very important scene. It works for me, and being
Yeah,
a dancer and having dance partners, that is a different kind of intimacy. Your dance partner and you have this shared language that no one else has.
yeah, yeah. So it worked for me too.
Yeah, I think they're great. And in fact, that scene in the eighth episode I thought was great too. I didn't think,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
saw
I
some
loved
people
it.
complaining about it, but I was like, no, this works.
Hmm.
This is fine. This is
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
good stuff. Okay, the next one is, oh boy, Spock and Kirk's bromance really begins in Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 3. Yeah.
If you really think about it, in season 2, they met each other, right? Uhura introduced them in episode 206, I think it was, at the very, very end. But and then, and then they saw each other again during the musical, and Kirk was like teasing Spock, but they weren't friends. They weren't friends yet. So the friendship really started to
Well,
begin in
now hang on a second. I remember hearing Spock say, I am and always have been your friend. So I believe they always have been friends, according to Spock.
well, yeah, sure. If you want to go into the whole Vesda thing where of effect before cause in the finale, yeah, sure. They've always been friends. Um, but yes, like their friendship began somewhere, and we finally got to see it how it actually happens in Prime Universe canon. So
Yeah.
306 Spock kind of gives Kirk that hard talking to that kind of gave him back his confidence, and then the mind meld in 310 in the
Oh,
finale.
I
Yeah,
love that. I love that.
yeah, I thought
Yes.
it was great. And then they know a little bit about each other.
Yeah.
Kirk knows all about the dancing, and Spock knows about what happened on that moon in Orion, which he can't judge Kirk too harshly for. So it
But
was good
speaking of
stuff.
which, you mentioned it just a minute ago, but you know what is the dumbest Star Trek alien ever? The Vesda. Okay, so I'm gonna cut that out. The next
All right.
one is Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3 introduced 3 great recurring guest stars. Great, huh? Explain yourself.
Yes, yes. This surprised and delighted me in season 3. Is that this cast was already so big,
Yeah.
right? But then they introduced 3 new characters who recurred throughout the season, and all of them were important. All of them were great. I also got to interview all 3 of them and kind of befriend them, which is really nice. Um, they were all spectacular actors and really great characters. There was, obviously we had Roger Corby, which is Killian O'Sullivan, who
Mhm.
Nurse Chapel's new love interest, her boyfriend, who was awesome, and we got to see him like see little elements of how he's going to turn evil in the original series when he becomes like there were all these little mentions of him,
Mm.
like, oh, you're the man who wants to be immortal, and things like that. And you got to see a little bit of the darkness in him. He seems to be a really good guy, a really good boyfriend to her, but there's something off with him that we're seeing that they're not seeing yet. So I thought that was really well done. And then Minor Lucan as Beto, as Ortega's younger brother, who is also like the first love interest in canon for Uhura. Which is
Mhm.
and I thought they had really good chemistry together, and he also had really good chemistry with Melissa Navia, his sister. Um, and also some trivia: Minor Lucan worked on Christina Chong's new album, so he wrote one of the songs and he sings on one of the songs, and I think he co-wrote
Wow.
another one. So yeah, they've been
Cool.
working together. And then Chris Myers, who I think needs to be shouted out. He played Ensign Dana Gamble in 2 or 3 episodes. He came on as like just this really charming like young ensign that Dr. Mbenga loved, his protege. I thought they had a really great chemistry. And then like he turned, he became the villain of the season, and I thought he was appropriately menacing as the villain. Like I thought, he basically played 2 different characters throughout the season, and he did a really great job. So shout out to all 3 of them because again, 3 guest stars came on the show and were all very, very important to the overall narrative. They were all like really distinctive and they needed to be shouted out.
Up next, Anson Mount's two wildest Star Trek Strange New Worlds performances.
Another another standout, right? Like, obviously he's Pike. And I saw some people complaining about Pike this season, like that Pike was somehow less cool this season, or more like, or like or they just weren't digging like his relationship
Interesting.
with Battelle. But like, and again, I don't know. There's enough appreciation for Anson going all in on these 2 alternate versions of Pike. Like he played T.K. Bellows in A Space Adventure Hour, the holodeck version of Gene Roddenberry. And it's such a weird performance. Like it's such an unusual.
It's
Like I just
freaking
love watching it.
amazing.
It's such a weird, like strangely detailed performance, and like remember Jonathan Frakes talking about how he was like channeling Gene Roddenberry. I met Roddenberry. I told him kind of like how he was and how he sounded, and like they could work together to try to make this guy kind of like Roddenberry. And like it's such a I thought to me it's the most fun performance in that episode. Like when I rewatched that episode, it's the one I focus on. And then he comes back as Vulcan Pike, which I thought was hilarious. He was very, very loud. He was very, very loud as a Vulcan. And
And
Dr.
clean.
Mbega, what would your
So
assessment of the situation
clean.
be?
and he did the opening narration as a very loud Vulcan Pike.
Oh,
Space, the final
that's
frontier.
hilarious.
That,
That was
that kills me
hilarious.
every time I hear it.
Yeah,
So
that was
freaking
hilarious.
hilarious.
Up
Well, he just
next.
looked like he was having fun.
Yeah, he was having fun.
All right, so our next one is Paul Wesley became Captain Kirk in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season
But we skipped
3.
we skipped one. We also skipped Ortega's. Her solo effort was worth the wait, and it
Oh,
was.
right.
Terrarium was
I'm
Terrarium
so
was great.
sorry. Lieutenant Ortega's Star Trek Strange New Worlds solo episode was worth the wait. Tell us why.
Well, we waited 3 years for it. We waited for Ortegas to have a whole episode to herself where we found out a lot about her. And if you track season 3, you watch it from start to finish, Ortegas was a very, very important, almost central character throughout season 3, from her escaping the Gorn ship and being mortally wounded and
Yeah.
bleeding out all over the Gorn ship, and then the trauma that came with it. And then you track her behavior throughout the episodes when like she was on the bridge when number one was in command, and like her acting out and defying orders and doing like it follows through all throughout. And then of course she finally faces her trauma by the sheer coincidence of crash landing on a planet where there's already a Gorn. But then we find that it wasn't a coincidence. It was all manipulated by spoilers by the Metron. And but it was like in terms of a solo showcase by Melissa Navia. I mean, you could not ask for more. She was incredible in that entire episode because she basically did it all by herself. She had a Gorn prosthetic with her with a stuntman inside, but it was basically 90% of the episode was just her alone acting with herself. And I mean, she was incredible. I told her this actually. I interviewed her for the episode, and I told her this is true. Back in the 90s, I was living in New York, and I got to go see Patrick Stewart do a one-man play of The Tempest.
Oh, fun.
And Yeah, that was amazing. That's a core memory of mine, where just to watch Patrick Stewart for 90 minutes just alone on stage playing the entire Tempest by himself. And it reminded me of that. Like it was that she was that good, I thought.
Wow. High praise. So now, sorry, up next is Paul Wesley became Captain
Yeah.
Kirk in Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 3.
Yeah.
He really kind of leaned into it a bit more. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Like, to me, this was him really becoming Kirk. And throughout the press for season three, Akiva Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers talked nonstop basically about their hopes to make a Kirk spinoff about his first year as captain of the
It's
Enterprise.
going to
And I think this
happen,
was the
right?
episode where, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see it, but I have no idea if it could actually happen. Um, but when they were talking about that, people were just like, "Why?" Right? People were just like, "I mean, that doesn't sound very interesting or creative." But I think this episode changed a lot of minds, or at least got people more interested in it. Like because you got to see the possibility of Paul Wesley as Kirk and Ethan Peck as Spock together as as the Kirk and Spock that we know. And I think like this one, I think this episode and Paul Wesley's performance really kind of made you see that he really could be a Kirk, that this could be a viable thing. So, again, I'm not 100% like love everything about season three. Yes, there are problems with it, and we could go into that like in another podcast. But
Yeah.
these are some of the things I like. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are the things that stood out to me that I thought I would like to shout out. And so I did because I have an outlet and I can do that.
Before you go, John Orquiola, let me ask you this. What would you rather see if Skydance says, John, you seem like a good guy. You write a lot of stuff for Screen Rant. You got a cool handle back of the head, but we're in a quandary. We only have the
Hmm.
budget for one show. Should we do uh the whatever it's called, the Strange New World spin-off of the original series? What's it
Right.
called? Like
So year
Year
one, Star
one.
Trek year
year
one.
one, thank you.
Yeah.
Or should we do Legacy? What do you say?
Legacy.
Take your time and think
Because
about it.
yeah, because one, it's the one the fans want. But more than that, I love Strange New Worlds. I love the 23rd century, but if I'm going to be honest, I'm done with prequels. I would like to stop prequels. I would like to stop going backwards and just and digging into areas of Star Trek that are already well trodden, well established, and just and like prequels just keep trying to find new corners of it.
New
But it's like
nooks,
let's
yeah.
move, yeah, let's move forward. The 25th century to me that's the final frontier. That's the great unknown. Picard
Yeah.
just opened it up, and let's
Yep.
see it. Let's go into it. So
Yeah.
legacy for that reason.
Hmm. That doesn't sound very Star Trek 4 of you, John Orkilla.
But maybe Star Trek Forward.
Ooh, that's a good title. Pitch that to the Paramount.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching that clip. You can find us on the main viewer live every Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern to talk about all of the week's Star Trek news.